This tutorial is going to talk about how to add another photograph to your image in an interesting way. So maybe that's through texture, or if you just wanted another picture or symbol on top of what you have. And then it's also going to talk about how to use one of the images that you drew in order to trace and add that to your photo. Starting out, I'm going to talk about adding texture first though. So if you have a texture photo that you want to add to your image, you're going to go up and place it just like with the Cubist collage. So I'm going to go up to File, and then I'm going to go to Place Linked, and I'm going to find where I have a texture photo that I want to work with. Alright, so now that I have my image chosen, I'm going to hit Place, and it's going to place my texture photo on top of my picture, and I'm going to adjust the size of it here so that it fills my image. And I'm holding down Shift and dragging from the corners. Then I'm going to hit this check mark. And you'll notice that it automatically places the layer or the image on a new layer, which is what you want. Since it is not see-through, what you want to do with this layer to kind of change how it's viewed or how it mixes with my bottom layer is if you go up into the Layers panel where it says Normal, this is the type of overlay that this layer will have. I'm going to choose Multiply, which usually works the best, but you can go through and experiment with some different overlays. So I'm going to hit Multiply, and right away you're able to see part of my image come through this layer. Since it's such a dark layer, something that I can do is adjust the opacity of it. So if I take the opacity down as well, you'll start to see more and more of my background image. Now, as you go through and see which setting works the best for your image, again, you can just click and all of these settings will do something different. So I would go through them all and see which one is the most interesting or adds a good effect to your photo. You can also adjust the settings of this picture. So for example, I can go up and adjust the level. So I'm going to go to Image. Since I don't want this adjustment to affect everything in my layer, I am going to directly edit this layer, so I'm not going to add a new layer. I'm going to go up to Image, Adjustments, and then Levels. And I can adjust kind of the contrast a little bit. Maybe I want my image to be lighter, and just play around with the levels or the settings of your photo. You can do that. And once you're happy with it, if you wanted to get rid of certain areas of your picture, you can. So for example, if I wanted to get rid of the glass texture in the background and just have this broken glass on the face, I can do that using a mask. So I'm going to select around the outside of the face first. If I want to get rid of the glass texture from the face and maybe just have that glass texture in the background, I can do that by selecting around my face first. So I'm going to hide this layer. That way I can really see the face. And I'm going to make sure I have that picture selected so it's selecting the face instead of the glass. So I'm going to use my quick selection tool in the Layers panel, and I'm going to start selecting around the face here. So I'm going to get a good selection. And now since I want to get rid of the glass off of the face, in order to add a mask to get rid of that, I'm going to invert my selection that I have. So to invert my selection, I'm going to go up to the top of Photoshop where it says Select. I'm going to hit Inverse, and that way I have the background selected. So when I bring my glass layer back and I add a mask to my glass layer, it's going to mask off the face so that I only have the glass and that texture in the background. This part of the video is going to talk about if you have a drawing that you did on paper and scan that into the computer, how to place that onto your image and start working with it. So I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to go up to File, Place Linked in order to place that photo onto my image. So I'm going to find where I have my drawing saved at, and then I'm going to hit Place. Now what I'm going to do is in my Layers panel, I'm going to choose Multiply here just so I can see where this fits. I might want to fill the face a little bit more so that it stretches across the whole face. So I'm going to adjust the size of my drawing here to fit a little bit better. And then I'm going to kind of move it around and make sure that the placement is where I want it. Then I'm going to hit this check button. And from there, I'm able to go back and start tracing my shapes like what we did in the earlier tutorial where we practiced. I'm going to add a new layer to my layers panel, and then using my lasso tool, I'm going to start tracing some of these shapes with my Wacom tablet. And that way I'm able to fill these shapes in, because if I did not trace these shapes, I wouldn't be able to fill them in. So I'm going to use my paint bucket again and choose the color that I want and fill in that shape. And then I'm going to continue and go through, trace all of my shapes and fill those in if I wanted, or I could just create an outline. Depends on what you want for your picture. Something else that could be interesting to do with your photos is if you place a texture picture that you're able to trace on top of your image, that could be kind of another interesting effect. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to go up to File, Place Linked, and I'm going to find an image to work with. I just placed a texture picture of a dragonfly's wings that I'm going to work with, and I'm going to again select Multiply so that I'm able to see the texture on just the face, and I'm going to stretch that to the size that I want, so figuring out where it best fits within my image here. And then I'm going to hit the check button once it's where I want it to be, and then I can go in and maybe trace this texture, which would add an interesting effect to the face as well. Or I could just work with this texture and maybe delete it from the background, or start to kind of mask off certain areas with it. Could be interesting too.